options and offer us a window to the world. Big screens, small screens, lots of screens. It feels like we're on screens 24/7, but our eyes pay a price for all that screen time. It's called digital eye strain. You've probably never heard of digital eye strain, but it's real, and it might be affecting how you work, how you play, and even how you live.
There are about 330 million people globally that have dry eye, and only 64% realize that dry eye can stem from digital eye strain. A lot of people blink 15 to 18 times per minute in their daily life, but when you're using a digital device, that can drop down to 5 to 6 times per minute. You start rubbing your eyes, your neck starts to hurt, you get headaches, and all of those factors total into digital eye strain. And there are some simple solutions to address digital eye strain. Comfortable environment, the positioning of your chair to make it comfortable, making sure that the screen is just below your eye level, the use of artificial tears, and the most important one is actually to be able to take a break and rest your eyes away from the screen.
I'm in front of my screen pretty much all day, every day. If I start off on a project in the morning, let's say, I'm in front of my computer making sure that every single statement is perfect. I'm staring at the screen so intently, and I even notice that I start leaning closer and closer. So by the end of the day, I am probably less than 12 inches away from my screen. My eyes start to get itchy and they start to water and tear up and get dry, and I start blinking more and I start itching, very watery and red. Once I do leave for work, I cannot drive without my glasses because I feel that things are blurred.
As a video editor, I depend on my eyes for a living. Sometimes that means I'm in front of a screen for 14 hours at a time. I deal with high definition images, so I need to keep a sharp focus, which gets harder after a long day. Once my eyes start to feel fatigued, I often get blurry vision or headaches, and I have to rest my eyes.
We have one mission: to create products that help people see better. And we offer a number of eye care solutions to manage symptoms of digital eye strain. Our screens let us work more, play more, live more. But if you're experiencing digital eye strain, it's time to talk to your doctor. Solutions are available. You'll be glad you did. For more information about our product, please visit our website.
Ano ang conjunctivitis? Ang harapan ng ating mata ay pinalilibutan ng isang manipis na balot na tinatawag na conjunctiva. Pinipigilan nito ang pagpasok ng mikrobyo sa mata at gumagawa ng pampadulas upang hindi manuyot ang mata. Ang pamamaga ng balot na ito ay tinatawag na conjunctivitis. Ito ang pamumula ng parte ng ating mata na dapat ay puti. Ito ay kadalasan tinatawag at kilala sa pangalan na sore eyes. Maaaring sabihin na ang isang tao ay may conjunctivitis kapag siya ay nakaranas ng pamumula, pangangati ng mata, o sobrang pagluluha. Paano nakukuha ang conjunctivitis? Ang conjunctivitis ay pwedeng makuha mula sa isang taong infected sa pamamagitan ng paglanghap ng tumalsik na laway, maaari rin sa malapit at madalas na pakikisama, at paghawak sa mga bagay na may mikrobyo sabay hawak sa mata bago maghugas ng kamay. Ano ang sanhi ng conjunctivitis? Ito ay maaari manggaling sa bacteria, virus o allergy. Ang bacterial conjunctivitis ay nanggagaling sa mga organismong ito: Pneumoniae, aureus, influenzae at catarrhalis. Ang nana na lumalabas sa mata ng bacterial ay pwedeng kulay puti, dilaw o berde. Karaniwan, isang mata lang apektado. Ang viral conjunctivitis naman ay galing sa tinatawag nating adenovirus. Ito ay lubhang nakakahawa at parang tubig ang likido na galing sa mata. Maaari makaranas sa simptomas ng trangkaso tulad ng lagnat, masakit na lalamunan at paglaki ng kulani. Ang allergic conjunctivitis naman ay mas napapansin natin sa mga taong may hika o skin allergy. Papansin ng pasyente na parehong mata ay nagluluha o nauuhog na likido na lumalabas sa mata. Paano ginagamot ang conjunctivitis? Ang iba't ibang gamot ang ginagamit para sa iba't ibang sanhi ng conjunctivitis. Una, antibiotic drops ang binibigay kung bacterial ang conjunctivitis. Kapag viral naman ito, kusa itong mawawala sa 2 hanggang 3 linggo. Pwedeng magbigay ng artificial tears o kaya'y topical antihistamines para sa pagkate. Ang allergic conjunctivitis naman ay ginagamot gamit topical antihistamines at mast cell stabilizers. Makatulong rin ang pagpatak ng artificial tears para sa pagkontrol ng sintomas. Pwede rin magbigay ng oral antihistamine kapag lumalala ang mga sintomas. Mga maling paniniwala tungkol sa conjunctivitis. Una, hindi ito nakukuha sa pagtititig. Ikalawa, hindi lahat ng sore eyes ay nakakahawa tulad ng allergic na sore eyes. Ikatlo, hindi gagaling ang sore eyes sa paggamit ng kalamansi. Ito ay acidic at mas lalong nakakasama sa ating mata. Ang sore eyes ay parang sipon o trangkaso na maaaring maulit. Pwede mo itong makuha ulit. Paano maiwasan ang conjunctivitis? Una, panitilihing malinis ang kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ikalawa, huwag hawakan o kamutin ng mata para hindi ito kumalat sa kabilang mata. Ikatlo, para sa mga gumagamit ng contact lenses, palaging linisin ito at iwasang gamitin ng magdamag. At huli, sa mga kasamang may sore eyes, iwasan muna ang direct contact at hiraman ng mga personal items. Social distancing muna. At iyan ang kailangan nating alamin para ibalik ang pula sa puti.
In the digital age, screens are everywhere. They help us to work more efficiently, provide endless entertainment options, and offer us a window to the world. Big screens, small screens, lots of screens. It feels like we're on screens 24/7. But our eyes pay a price for all that screen time. It's called digital eye strain. You've probably never heard of digital eye strain, but it's real, and it might be affecting how you work, how you play, and even how you live.
There are about 330 million people globally that have dry eye, and only 64% realize that dry eye can stem from digital eye strain. A lot of people blink 15 to 18 times per minute in their daily life. But when you're using a digital device, that can drop down to 5 to 6 times per minute. You start rubbing your eyes, your neck starts to hurt, you get headaches, and all of those factors total into digital eye strain. And there are some simple solutions to address digital eye strain. Comfortable environment, the positioning of your chair to make it comfortable, making sure that the screen is just below your eye level, the use of artificial tears. And the most important one is actually to be able to take a break and rest your eyes away from the screen.
I'm in front of my screen pretty much all day, every day. If I start off on a project in the morning, let's say, I'm in front of my computer making sure that every single statement is perfect. I'm staring at the screen so intently. And I even notice that I start leaning closer and closer. So by the end of the day, I am probably less than 12 inches away from my screen. My eyes start to get itchy and they start to water and tear up and get dry. And I start blinking more and I start itching, very watery and red. Once I do leave for work, I cannot drive without my glasses because I feel that things are blurred.
As a video editor, I depend on my eyes for a living. Sometimes that means I'm in front of a screen for 14 hours at a time. I deal with high definition images, so I need to keep a sharp focus, which gets harder after a long day. Once my eyes start to feel fatigued, I often get blurry vision or headaches, and I have to rest my eyes.
We have one mission: to create products that help people see better. And we offer a number of eye care solutions to manage symptoms of digital eye strain. Our screens let us work more, play more, live more. But if you're experiencing digital eye strain, it's time to talk to your doctor. Solutions are available. You'll be glad you did. For more information about our product, please visit our website.
Ano ang conjunctivitis? Ang harapan ng ating mata ay pinalilibutan ng isang manipis na balot na tinatawag na conjunctiva. Pinipigilan nito ang pagpasok ng mikrobyo sa mata at gumagawa ng pampadulas upang hindi manuyot ang mata. Ang pamamaga ng balot na ito ay tinatawag na conjunctivitis. Ito ang pamumula ng parte ng ating mata na dapat ay puti. Ito ay kadalasan tinatawag at kilala sa pangalan na sore eyes. Maaaring sabihin na ang isang tao ay may conjunctivitis kapag siya ay nakaranas ng pamumula, pangangati ng mata, o sobrang pagluluha. Paano nakukuha ang conjunctivitis? Ang conjunctivitis ay pwedeng makuha mula sa isang taong infected sa pamamagitan ng paglanghap ng tumalsik na laway, maaari rin sa malapit at madalas na pakikisama, at paghawak sa mga bagay na may mikrobyo sabay hawak sa mata bago maghugas ng kamay. Ano ang sanhi ng conjunctivitis? Ito ay maaari manggaling sa bacteria, virus o allergy. Ang bacterial conjunctivitis ay nanggagaling sa mga organismong ito, pneumoniae, aureus, influenzae at catarrhalis. Ang nana na lumalabas sa mata ng bacterial ay pwedeng kulay puti, dilaw o berde. Karaniwan, isang mata lang apektado. Ang viral conjunctivitis naman ay galing sa tinatawag nating adenovirus. Ito ay lubhang nakakahawa at parang tubig ang likido na galing sa mata. Maaari makaranas sa simptomas ng trangkaso tulad ng lagnat, masakit na lalamunan at paglaki ng kulani. Ang allergic conjunctivitis naman ay mas napapansin natin sa mga taong may hika o skin allergy. Papansin ng pasyente na parehong mata ay nagluluha o nauuhog na likido na lumalabas sa mata. Paano ginagamot ang conjunctivitis? Ang iba't ibang gamot ang ginagamit para sa iba't ibang sanhi ng conjunctivitis. Una, antibiotic drops ang binibigay kung bacterial ang conjunctivitis. Kapag viral naman ito, kusa itong mawawala sa 2 hanggang 3 linggo. Pwedeng magbigay ng artificial tears o kaya'y topical antihistamines para sa pagkate. Ang allergic conjunctivitis naman ay ginagamot gamit topical antihistamines at mast cell stabilizers. Makatulong rin ang pagpatak ng artificial tears para sa pagkontrol ng sintomas. Pwede rin magbigay ng oral antihistamine kapag lumalala ang mga sintomas. Mga maling paniniwala tungkol sa conjunctivitis. Una, hindi ito nakukuha sa pagtititig. Ikalawa, hindi lahat ng sore eyes ay nakakahawa tulad ng allergic na sore eyes. Ikatlo, hindi gagaling ang sore eyes sa paggamit ng kalamansi. Ito ay acidic at mas lalong nakakasama sa ating mata. Ang sore eyes ay parang sipon o trangkaso na maaaring maulit. Pwede mo ito makuha ulit. Paano maiwasan ang conjunctivitis? Una, panitilihing malinis ang kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ikalawa, huwag hawakan o kamutin ng mata para hindi ito kumalat sa kabilang mata. Ikatlo, para sa mga gumagamit ng contact lenses, palaging linisin ito at iwasang gamitin ng magdamag. At huli, sa mga kasamang may sore eyes, iwasan muna ang direct contact at hiraman ng mga personal items. Social distancing muna. At yan ang kailangan nating alamin para ibalik ang pula sa puti.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our channel. It is 5 p.m. on a Thursday once again, which means that it is time for our Thursday afternoon habit. This is TMC EyeTV Ophthalmic Instruction Without Borders. I am Kay Lokay Lokay, a recent graduate of the Ophthalmology Residency Training Program of the Medical City Eye and Vision Institute, and it is my privilege to be your host for today's episode. Our topic for this afternoon isn't really something new. In fact, this has been a real concern ever since the introduction of electronic or digital devices and the internet. However, this has come recently into the spotlight because of our current situation, or the new normal, as they would say, of online classes, online learning, and work from home. Digital eye strain isn't only relevant to us ophthalmologists because we get asked a lot about it, but also because it has become a more perceptible issue that has been and is affecting more and more groups of people and their quality of life. There really isn't a better time to talk about it than now. Before I introduce our speakers, let us first hear from today's sponsor, Alcon Philippines. Let us welcome their General Manager, Mr. Malone Guevara, for the opening message.
Hi everyone, I'm Malone Guevara, the Country Manager of Alcon Laboratories. As this COVID-19 crisis evolved, we recognize that we continue navigating on these challenges and of course, opportunities. One obvious compromise that we are experiencing right now is the increase in the screen time, which is necessary for us to address. We at Alcon, together with the Medical City Eye and Vision Institute, partnered to realize the TMC EyeTV Alcon Dry Eye episode. This primarily aims to highlight innovations in the field of ophthalmology. For this episode, Dr. Romeo de la Cruz, Dr. Albina Pauline Santiago, and Dr. Kisha Duyonco, our three dry eye experts, will join to discuss dry eye in this digital age. Let us continue to move forward, and together with Alcon, let us help people see brilliantly. Stay safe and hope to see you soon.
Thank you for that, Mr. Guevara. Again, thank you to Alcon for partnering with us and making this event a reality. Did you know that the digital eye strain is also known as the digital vision syndrome or the computer vision syndrome? This condition has been described as a group of eye and vision related problems that are brought about by the prolonged use of digital devices. We are joined today by experts and colleagues in the fields of optics, cornea and refractive surgery, as well as pediatric ophthalmology and strabismus to get a better picture of this syndrome. We hope that by listening to the varied perspectives of our speakers today, our viewers will have a better understanding of digital eye strain. Our first speaker will be giving an introduction to the basics of digital eye strain as it presents as a common issue across all industries. She's no other than Dr. Albina Pauline Santiago, one of the top pediatric ophthalmologists in the country. Dr. Santiago obtained her medical degree from the University of the Philippines College of Medicine and finished her residency training at the Department of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences of the UPPGH. She then took her fellowship at the Jules Stein Eye Institute of the University of California, and she famously co-authored the book Clinical Strabismus Management, Principles and Surgical Technique by Rosenbaum and Santiago. Dr. Santiago is currently the head of the Pediatric Ophthalmology and Strabismus section of the Medical City Eye and Vision Institute. She is also affiliated with the UPPGH, Manila Doctors Hospital, and St. Luke's Medical Center. Next up will be Dr. Romeo de la Cruz, who will be expounding more on computer vision syndrome in the era of digital transformation. Doc Romy is a certified doctor of the right eye. That's right, he is an OD or a doctor of optometry and a doctor of medicine at the same time. He finished his residency in ophthalmology as well as his fellowship training at the Department of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences of the UPPGH. He is currently the section chief of the Optics, Refraction, and Contact Lens Clinic of UPPGH. Dr. De La Cruz is also an active consultant at St. Luke's Medical Center and Manila Doctors Hospital. Finally, the session will end with a brief overview of the studies done locally on digital vision-related dry eye disease, as well as the experience of patients in computer-heavy industries. This will be presented by our junior consultant and the newest member to the Cornea External Disease and Refractive section of the Medical City Eye and Vision Institute, as well as the OG moderator of the TMC EyeTV, Dr. Keisha De Yonco Lennon. She obtained her medical degree and a master's in business administration from the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health and trained for her residency at the Medical City, where she served as chief resident and was awarded the most outstanding trainee. Dr. De Yonco also completed her fellowship training in the same institution. Now that we have introduced our three speakers, it is time to listen and learn from them. As always, should you have any questions, feel free to type it down below or on or beside the screens, and we will tackle them later towards the end of our episode with our speakers. Sit back, relax, and let us welcome to our screens Dr. Albina Pauline Santiago.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I thank the TMC EyeTV team for inviting me to speak about digital eye strain as it gains importance with the current pandemic. The outcomes I hope the attendee can achieve at the end of my talk include defining digital eye strain, enumerating the synonyms of this entity, identifying its etiologies, stating the principles of management, identifying unproven modes of management, stating the effect of blue color filtering glasses on eye strain, and formulate management strategies for eye strain. Most of the management strategies will also be discussed by Dr. Romy De La Cruz, and this lecture will serve as an introduction. Digital eye strain is also known as asthenopia, visual fatigue, computer vision syndrome, and the older term, video terminal display syndrome, or video display terminal syndrome. I think the TMC EyeTV team just introduced a new term, digital eye vision syndrome. The Vision Council defines digital eye strain as physical eye discomfort experienced after at least 2 hours of using digital screens. But the AOA also includes back and neck pains in the constellation of findings in patients with digital eye strain or computer vision syndrome. Although difficult to establish, digital eye strain occurs in perhaps half of the people on the computer, and probably even more. In children, there is a reported pooled prevalence of 20% in a study done in 2015. It is not difficult to believe that the numbers will definitely be higher during this pandemic. Digital eye strain will affect learning and school performance. Symptoms can generally be divided into two groups. One, those related to accommodative or binocular stress, and two, symptoms related to dry eyes. Dry eyes will be discussed at length by our next speaker. Symptoms related to binocular or accommodative stress include headache, blurred vision, nausea and vomiting, breakdown of pre-existing heterophorias and tropias. Blinking, tearing, dry eyes, photophobia, and itchy eyes are associated with external eye symptoms. Accommodative anomalies add to the visual discomfort, especially during sustained near work or computer use. Accommodative lag and reduced amplitude of accommodation are exemplified by the uncorrected or undercorrected presbyope. He strains to see at near, and when looking at distance, it takes longer to refocus. As we age, we experience reduced accommodation. The eye care provider must evaluate the distance at which screens are used to optimize the prescription lenses that will be given. I also know our next speaker will discuss this at length. To relax your eyes from sustained accommodation during computer work, the AOA recommends following the 20-20-20 rule, which means you take frequent breaks every 20 minutes, at least 20 seconds, looking 20 feet away. Take alternative task breaks throughout the day. Make phone calls or photocopies. Consult with coworkers. After working on the computer for an extended period, do anything in which the eyes don't have to focus on something up close. For children, let them stand, drink water, take them to the bathroom, make them do an errand, anything to get their eyes off the computer. Patients with vergence anomalies, such as those with pre-existing heterophorias, experience greater discomfort after prolonged use of the eyes, especially at near. The principles of management are simple. If you can identify the cause of the digital eye strain, then solutions are pretty straightforward. For example, uncorrected refractive errors are improved by the proper correction. In presbyopes, the distance of the computer screens becomes an important consideration in prescribing corrective lens wear. Although I have never done this, the authors cite that at least 20% of patients with accommodative and vergence anomalies in a study seem to prefer a small exophoria correction and may benefit at least a trial. In a patient with altered blink response, blinking exercises for muscle memory may be warranted. If working distance is too close, increase the distance. The actual distance, however, is variable in the literature and may be adjusted to a patient's comfort level. If the font size is too small, increase it. But be careful about data privacy. Some increase the font size to a point where the next door neighbor, or at least the person standing beside you, can read your screens. Shepard and Walson cited European studies where 68% of children by age 3 regularly use computers, with 54% engage in some type of online activity. We use them as babysitters, and we used to see these in the restaurants before. Adults in 2016, at least in Europe and US, spend at least 4.5 to 5 hours in front of the computers. Figures across all age groups are definitely higher during this pandemic, as online classes and Zoom meetings dominate our daily lives. Okay, so how many of us do this? While on a Zoom meeting, for example, you chat with friends on another device. Multitasking using several devices definitely contributes to digital eye strain. Dry eyes. It used to be a problem of the menopausal female because of hormonal changes in the body. And we now see this even in the young adult males and females and even children. The long daily duration of digital device use contribute to dry eyes. In children, where abstinence for 4 weeks was prescribed, patients had improved tear breakup time and improvement in punctate corneal epithelial erosions, such that the children were no longer classified as having dry eye disease by the end of the 4-week cessation. Invariably, digital eye strain needs to be discussed with blue lights and its harmful effects. There is currently a lot of upselling of blue blocking lenses supposedly to relieve digital eye strain. What is blue light? It's part of the visible light spectrum, 400 to 500 nanometers, that may be harmful to the retina at suprathreshold acute doses, with damage peaking at 440 nanometers. Longer duration, albeit less intense exposure, can also cause damage. Based on the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection Guidelines, the limit of exposure to incoherent visible and infrared radiation, domestic lamps actually exceed the limit by 10 to 20% when intentionally viewed. Computer screens are actually lower than natural exposures, such as staring at the blue sky and exposure to household or ambient lighting. The extremely low level of blue light from digital screens are not a biohazard, and we in fact have more exposure with domestic light such as LED bulbs. O'Hagan and co-workers showed that the percentage of blue light emission does not exceed 1% of the ICN-IRP blue light threshold, and in fact, ranges only from 0.03 to 0.28%. This means blue light from computer monitors, laptops, tables, and smartphones do not present a biohazard even with prolonged viewing. What about the performance of blue blocking lenses? In 2017, Leung and co-workers studied Hoya, Zeiss, Essilor, and Swiss Lens versions of the blue blocking lenses and found a reduction of the calculated phototoxicity only reached 10 to 24%. So they reduced by 10 to 24% the less than 1% blue light emission of the gadgets used. I guess you use information the way you want to. Surprisingly, this finding is the same paper cited by the industry as supportive of their blue blocking lenses recommendation. The fact that blue blocking lenses affected scotopic contrast sensitivity and caused melatonin suppression, thereby affecting sleep, is hardly mentioned in discussions and marketing pitches. This is the figure published by Leung that shows how the blue light hazard is reduced by 10 to 24% only. The dotted lines represent the blue light hazard, and the different colored lines are the different manufacturers of blue blocking lenses. I purposely covered the manufacturers' names on this graph, but if you want to see it, the paper is free to download. There remains a lot of interest of what effect blue blocking lenses will have on eye health. There is, however, a need for high-quality research, preferably randomized clinical trials, for determining whether blue blocking lenses can in fact protect our eyes. For now, what we are sure of is that digital eye strain is caused by how we abuse our eyes and our devices. This infographic is available at the PSPOS Facebook page and can be shared away. PSPOS stands for Philippine Society of Pediatric Ophthalmology and Strabismus. We, as IMDs, recommend limiting the amount of screen time, reducing screen time at night, taking frequent breaks from screen, reducing the brightness of our screens, and increasing physical activity. Outdoor activity and the sun is actually recommended. Some of the tips of the PSPOS are summarized in this infographic and is available on our Facebook site. Please share this away. This has actually been translated to other languages by some of our neighboring ASEAN nations. The AOA adds neck and shoulder pain in the symptomatology of digital eye strain. Causes of neck and shoulder pain are explained by poor posture. This can be relieved by proper posture and positioning of the computer, the reference material, the right chair, and the right height. Details of which I think will also be discussed by our next lecturer. If it doesn't, I will show this again during the Q&A. Mirroring digital device output to the television will help, as these will not only increase font size, but perhaps even improve posture. Adults who work with spreadsheets sometimes prefer seeing the whole sheet on one page, making the font sizes smaller than they need to. Some sort of acceptable compromise with ease of work and relieving digital eye strain has to be done. And just like our minimum health protocol, maintaining physical distance between the eyes and the gadgets is helpful. Adjusting screen brightness to reduce glare and enhance contrast help relieve digital eye strain. To minimize the chances of developing dry eye when using a computer, try to blink frequently. Blinking keeps the front surface of the eye moist. What I discussed today can be summarized by the two widely circulated infographic on digital eye strain and its blue light companion Mythbusters prepared by the PSPOS. We encourage believers to share these infographics to their patients and friends. I hope that our viewers achieve the outcomes we envisioned at the beginning of this talk. To conclude, it was Bill Gates who said, "The computer was born to solve problems that did not exist before." To which I say, The computer created problems that did not exist before. These are my references. I will be available for question and answer after all speakers have finished their lectures. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I would like to thank Alcon for the invitation and congratulations to the Medical City Department of Ophthalmology for this very successful EyeTV program. Dr. Santiago made a very informative and extensive discussion on computer vision syndrome. This afternoon, I will be sharing to you more on the practical management of computer vision syndrome. Computers are becoming part of our daily life. More and more people are experiencing a variety of ocular symptoms related to computer use. And the coronavirus pandemic changes the way we interact today. A lot of data have shown that in this time of lockdowns and quarantines, computer use has significantly increased by about 200 to 300% in different platforms. And with this, the eye is becoming the health issue. With the use of computers, the eye is experiencing difficulties because of the fatigue in the focusing mechanism. With digital device use, the eye has to follow the same path over and over. It has to focus and refocus all the time because of continuously moving and changing images in the screen that is being sent to the brain. In addition to that, the blink mechanism of the lids is also affected, resulting to discomfort in the ocular surface. Computer vision syndrome was categorized into 4 groups. Number 1, asthenopia group, visual, ocular surface, and extraocular category. Asthenopia is a syndrome that pertains to the different discomfort pain being experienced by the eye. It is usually described by patients as eye strain, and usually they call it as eye fatigue. That is commonly attributed to problems in the binocularity or vergence and accommodation. This complex syndrome of asthenopia is usually seen as a consequence of prolonged fixed and closely oriented vision that is seen among computer users. So it was also labeled as digital asthenopia. And the study in the US showed that almost 65% of Americans suffer from this syndrome. During the process of accommodation, where the lens has to increase its AP diameter in order for the eye to see clearly, the main workload is actually in the scleral muscle of the eye. And this continuous contraction, in order to maintain accommodation for a prolonged period of time, is responsible for the symptoms called asthenopia. During persistent contraction, there is fixed tension of the ciliary muscle, resulting to transient myopia, pseudomyopia, or tired eye syndrome, wherein the eye is experiencing difficulty focusing or temporary blurring at distance after prolonged near work and stress. This is accommodative spasm. There are a variety of symptoms in this condition, but the most common that we usually observe is unstable vision when the patient looks at far and near. There is no specific treatment protocol for accommodative spasm because most of the time it is temporary. Cycloplegic eye drops, lenses, and vision training helps in some cases. Next category is visual, where the problem encountered during computer use are related to blurring of vision, slowness of focusing mechanism, diplopia, and presbyopia, which are related to possible error of refraction and accommodative problem. The visual discomfort brought about by devices are primarily related to the prints that we see in the computer devices. The digital form is highly dependent on pixels as compared to conventional reading materials. The problem with pixels is brightness in the center, and its brightness decreases towards the outer edge, while the regular print materials has a complete contrast sensitivity till the edge and fades white next to it. The eye's accommodative mechanism is not stressed in printed text because the edges are well defined as compared to pixels that has blurred margins. In terms of management, the mode of management that comes first in the minds of both eye doctors and the patients in managing visual symptoms of digital eye strain are eyeglasses. And in the optical industry, the word computer eyeglasses is very popular. And if you search the web for computer glasses, you will see a lot of marketing advertisements for these lenses or for these glasses. But this afternoon, I will be talking about more on the optics rather than the commercial aspects of the computer glasses. If your patient is a computer user and they belong to a younger population, it is suggested to prescribe even the smallest amount of refractive error. In my practice, I don't habitually prescribe errors amounting to 0.25 to 0.50 plus or minus, either pure spherical or pure astigmatic component, especially for hyperopics, not unless the patient has a symptoms and comfortable with his vision. But for computer users, even the smallest amount of refractive error will stimulate blur, thus exerting stronger accommodative power that leads to accommodative spasm. And you have to ensure precise optical center with your computer glasses. Optical center or geometric center is the center of your lens prescription in each eye. It should coincide with the pupillary center of the eye. So this is very important. So for example, you have a pupillary distance amounting to 66 millimeter. The distance between your optical center should also be 66 millimeter, so as to align your pupillary center with the optical center of your lens. Your lenses are composed of prisms that are positioned base to base for plus or convex lenses and apex to apex for minus or concave lenses. So if there are discrepancies between your optical centers and your pupillary distance, there will be a prismatic effect as stated in the Prentice rule. The misaligned optical centers will result into a prismatic deviation that will result to severe digital asthenopia. So as you look at the video, this is how you do or how you measure your optical center manually. So determining the optical center in a way that you align the lens in a reference line outside the lens, and then once you align it, you make a mark on the right lens, and then do the same thing over your left lens. Okay, so after marking those centers, get a ruler and then measure the distance between the two dots, and that is your optical center. So in this case, or in this video, you have a 60 millimeter optical center. So therefore, you should have, when you prescribe your lens, you should determine the pupillary distance, and then it should coincide your optical center to avoid prismatic effect. Now, in cases of presbyopes, intermediate vision lens power should be customized to individual digital device needs. Do not let your patients use their prescribed near reading glasses, especially those over-the-counter reading glasses. Do not use them for computer works because it has a different working distance. So with different dioptric power. Smartphones has a shorter viewing distance, so it requires a higher lens power as compared to tablet and laptop with longer viewing distances and requires much lower plus lens power. So choose a lens that will keep accommodation relaxed while working on computers. That is prescribing a less minus and a more plus power. This is among eye practitioners. Always remember that eyeglasses or contact lenses that were intended for distance vision may not be adequate for computer work. There are lens designs that enhances better optics and maximizes comfort for computer use. Anti-reflective coating eliminates reflection and allows about 99% entry of light inside the eye as compared to a regular lenses that has a lot of reflection coming from the computer screen light. And with regular lenses, you have about 50%, only about 50% of light that goes in through your lenses. The rest, or half of the lights, are being reflected. Okay, so scratches on the surface of the lens also decreases the visual quality. So you might opt to choose scratch-resistant lenses because it has a great advantage. High-index lenses are recommended, especially for those with moderate to high prescriptions, because it's thinner and avoid distortion in the peripheral vision. Lightweight eye frames gives an advantage in terms of comfort both for adults and kids to encourage them in continuously wearing their prescription glasses. So how do you get, by the way, as I mentioned a while ago, your regular reading lenses is different from what we call computer eyeglasses. So if your patient is working on a computer for about 8 to 10, sometimes 12 hours, maybe you have to prescribe a different computer eyeglasses. So how do you do that? If you have a refraction, or for lay people, if you have a grade of, for example, +1 over the right eye, that's the OD, and +150 over the left eye, that's the OS, and you have a reading lens, reading ads, +2 diopters pair, if you plan to prescribe a computer eyeglasses, what you have to do is you just divide your reading ads into two, so get the half, and then add it algebraically into your distance correction. So in this case, your computer glasses will now be, for the right eye is +2 diopters pair, and for your left eye, it's +250 diopters pair. And if the patient would like to retain his reading lens, you can still prescribe a reading ads of +2. But mind you, again, you have to remind the patients that these computer glasses cannot be used for distance or regular or distance correction, such as for driving or watching television. Your bifocal or progressive lens design for computer glasses is actually different from your regular eyeglasses. Regular progressive lens is only good for those intermittent computer users. But working on computers for longer hours, we suggest an occupational progressive or office progressive lenses. This office progressive lens has a wider intermediate area, or we call it corridor. So they are more comfortable when using a computer. So in cases of bifocals, that is the picture below, you have the straight line or the curved line below your lenses. Those are the bifocals. The upper portion of lens is intended for intermediate, while the lower portion is for near. Always advise again that computer glasses cannot be used for regular distance correction. So in multifocal implantation, actually multifocal implantation after cataract surgery is gaining popularity nowadays. It has an advantage for intermediate vision without compromising distance functionality. But studies have shown that lower multifocal had the better intermediate and distance vision than with higher power multifocal. So if your patient is a heavily computer user and would plan to implant a multifocal, choose a lower add multifocal implants. This limitation in earlier multifocal lens implants are being overcome by the emerging technology of extended depth of focus IOL, which is designed to improve range of vision, especially at intermediate distances, which I see at the moment as the lens implant for the digital world. And another category for computer vision syndrome is ocular surface problem. The use of computers, especially for prolonged periods, is associated with decreased frequency of blinking and an increased rate of tear evaporation, each of which contribute to dry eye. In the study of Patel, they were able to demonstrate that blink rate before computer use is 18.4 blinks per minute, while during computer use, it decreases significantly by about 3.6 blinks per minute. So, incomplete blinking results to twofold increase of dry eye due to less meibomian gland secretions, resulting to poorer meibum quality and tear film layer thickness, which actually predispose the eye towards the development of what we call an evaporative dry eye problem. This video animation will show you the mechanism of meibomian gland secretion of oil and lipids every time the eye blinks. The oily layer, being the outermost layer of tear film, is very vital in preventing evaporation of aqueous and mucin layer of the tear film to prevent dry eye. Other contributors to dry eye are the office environment, such as humidity, ventilation, and air conditioning, which promotes corneal drying. Also, in cases of desktop use or desktop computer use, the screens are frequently viewed in horizontal gaze, resulting to wider opening of the palpebral fissure. And with this, there is a more exposure of the cornea, which contributes to dry eye. Now, what is alarming now is that dry eye, due to digital device use, is not only limited to adults, but also to children because of exposure at a younger age. And with online schooling now, more and more kids are gaining access to digital devices. And another studies have shown that the use of lubricating eye drops has been helpful or significantly reduced symptoms of dry eye and provides better focusing while using computers. Alcon Company has a wide variety of lubricants that addresses different etiology of dry eyes. One is Sustain, that has a component of what we call propylene glycol, which has a humectant, which means it retains moisture, and a demulcent from propylene glycol, which provides a protective mechanism over the ocular surface. Another good product is a Sustain Balance, which has an oil and phospholipids that helps replace the lipid layer deficiency, such as in the case of poor meibomian gland function, and is more recommended to cases of evaporative dry eye, such as during computer use. Here is an incoming product also from Alcon, which seems to be for me, is very promising, as the name implies, Sustain Complete. Why? Because it has all the components needed to address both the HS deficiency and the evaporative type of dry eye. Okay, so the last category for computer vision syndrome is the extraocular, which is related to body pains, as mentioned by Dr. Santiago, which brought about by body posture and position of computer. So the combination of improper workplace conditions, poor work habits, posture, and lighting comprises visual ergonomics. One important thing is the lighting system in our room. As recommended by International or Illuminating Engineering Society of North America, workplace contrast lighting should be 1:3:10. What do you mean by that? So the task area should be less than 3 times as bright as its immediate surroundings within 25 degrees of the visual target, and 10 times brighter than the peripheral area that is past 25 degrees. Other recommendations are surrounding light should be brighter than the screen. Desk lamp should shine in the person and not on the screen, and avoid screen glare or reflection from the window. So the screen should be placed perpendicular from your window. And lastly, the contrast of the screen should be increased. So proper sitting position while working is very important in visual ergonomics. Computer monitor distance should be measured. It should be around 18 to 24 inches. Okay, and the top of the monitor at eye level should be at eye level and slightly tilted downwards by about 15 to 20 degrees downward. And the arms, the shoulder should be relaxed. Forearm should be parallel to the floor and with minimal bend at the wrist to avoid what we call carpal tunnel syndrome. With regards to your chair, you have a backrest and armrest and adjustable height. Your legs and also your feet should be parallel to the floor. And it is suggested that it is better if you use a footrest. Another important thing, as was mentioned before, is take a break every 20 minutes. The 3B approach is recommended: the blink, the breath, and the break. For breaks, a good rule of thumb is the 20-20-20 rule. Okay, and so break every 20 minutes, look 20 feet away for 20 seconds. Both American Academy of Ophthalmology and American Optometric Association agreed and suggested this rule of thumb. Okay, so I'd like to show you an example. This is the workstation in a room, workstation of my youngest son. The room size is about 10 by 12 feet. So modern lifestyle now is most of the time condo living. So what I did, because this room is so small, and I advised my child to rest for 20 minutes, look 20 feet away. So what I did is I place, look at the upper photo, I placed a mirror, a small mirror in front of him, which is about 2 feet away. Okay, and then I asked him during the break, he has to look at the mirror behind him through the small mirror, which measures about 10 feet. And then through that, look at the wall clock opposite the wall mirror, which is another 10 feet. So in total, my child is looking at a distance of 20 feet away, applying the law of reflection. Okay, so there's also an app that you can download. This is free at App Store or Google Play. By the way, I don't have financial interest in this app. So again, he's using this. So we apply the 20-20-20 rule again. So here how it works. So he pressed the button, the apps, and then put a 20-second break. While on break, he is looking at the mirror, looking at the clock through the wall mirror behind him. And then after like about 20 seconds, you will hear the beep. Okay, so that will be a sign that he has to start all over again and wait for another 20 minutes. Okay, so in conclusion, the visual complaints associated with computer vision syndrome or digital eye strain are temporary. It can be prevented and reduced with taking some preventions and necessary management. Thank you very much for listening, and stay safe, everyone.
Good evening. As we have learned from the previous two lectures, the utilization of visual display terminals, or VDTs, is a well-known risk factor for dry eye disease due to changes in the blinking mechanism and the tear film composition. In fact, VDT use is particularly high among office workers belonging to certain industries. These include BPOs, public administration, finance, and education. That being said, how common is dry eye disease among those who use VDTs at work? The Osaka study, which is the largest study of dry eye disease among office workers in Japan, estimated the prevalence at 60.2% for males and 76.5% for females. In a meta-analysis, the global dry eye disease prevalence among workers using VDTs is 54% based on papers utilizing at least two criteria for diagnosis.
In the Philippines, few studies have actually explored the real magnitude of this issue among office workers. So 9 years ago, an unpublished study on call center agents in Metro Manila showed a prevalence of dry eye symptoms of 41%. As VDT-based industries employ millions of Filipinos to date, more data on dry eye in relation to VDT work is highly relevant. So tonight, I will be sharing with you our preliminary data from an ongoing retrospective study based on dry eye screening activities conducted by the Institute. I will be presenting the data on 8 BPO companies, and for this study, only those with VDT use of at least 4 hours a day and at least 5 days a week have been considered. And any participant with a history of eye surgery within 3 months of the screening activity has been excluded. The data that will be presented is from 186 participants from 8 different BPO companies, and the average age is 30 years old with an age range of 19 to 59 years old. Majority of the participants are female, comprising 71%, and an overwhelming only 10% participants are using contact lenses. In here, you'll see that 89% of the workers who have participated in these screening activities have not used any topical eye drops. And the average duration of VDT use is 8 hours a day at work for 5 days a week. This spans from 5 hours to as high as 15 hours daily. The Osaka study also revealed that majority of office workers exposed to VDTs have a short tear film type of dry eye. And this type of dry eye is characterized by severe symptoms with minimal clinical signs other than your short breakup time. The results of the Osaka study significantly influenced the dry eye definition and diagnostic criteria by the Asia Dry Eye Society in 2017. And based on this consensus, dry eye disease can be diagnosed by a combination of symptoms assessed through standard questionnaires and a short tear breakup time. A cutoff of less than 5 seconds was proposed for the diagnosis of dry eye. This is the dry eye criteria that will be used to diagnose dry eye disease for this presentation, and in particular, the OSDI was used to assess for dry eye symptoms. The OSDI is a 12-item self-administered questionnaire, and this questionnaire was particularly collected by the ophthalmologist on site prior to tear film assessment. There are 3 sets of questions in the OSDI. The first asks the patient if he or she has experienced any of the following symptoms during the last week. These include light sensitivity, gritty or foreign body sensation, which some of you may have experienced, eye pain, blurred vision, or poor vision. The second asks whether the patient's eyes have limited him or her in performing any of the following during the last week. These activities are reading, night driving, computer work or ATM use, and watching TV. Finally, the patient is also asked whether he or she felt uncomfortable in any of these situations during the last week. These include being in windy, low humidity, and air-conditioned areas. The patient is asked to give a numerical rating per item according to the following scale: 4 for all of the time, 3 for most of the time, 2 for half of the time, 1 for some of the time, and 0 for none of the time. And a non-applicable option is also provided. Now let's take a look at the percentage of participants who have answered 1 to 4 for each of the 12 items. It is interesting to see that more than half of the participants have experienced all of these symptoms during the last week from the time of the screening. An outstanding 82% have given a rating of 2 or have experienced one of the 12 symptoms half of the time. On the other hand,
77% of the participants have a breakup time of less than 5 seconds in either eye. The average in the short breakup time group is 3 seconds with a range of 1 to 4.5 seconds. So going back to our first question, how common is dry eye disease among those who use VDTs at work, particularly among BPO employees in Metro Manila? Our preliminary results show that the prevalence is at 67%. In other words, 6 to 7 out of 10 BPO employees in Metro Manila have dry eye disease. With more Filipinos being exposed to VDTs at work and at home, it is not surprising to see a higher prevalence compared to the global estimate of 54%. So in conclusion, preliminary data on BPO employees here in Metro Manila suggests that dry eye disease as an occupational health risk to Filipinos using VDTs is a present reality. Despite the high prevalence of dry eye symptoms, we have found that majority have never been assessed nor treated for dry eye disease. As such, there is an unmet need for public awareness on this condition and evidence-based strategies for occupational safety and wellness. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Santiago, Dr. De La Cruz, and Dr. Dionco for those wonderful lectures. Again, if you have any other questions for our speakers, don't forget to type them down in the comment section. Before we proceed to the Q&A portion, let us watch first a short video from our sponsor today.
Dry eye syndrome occurs when the tear film is compromised, causing insufficient tear production or accelerated evaporation. This can result from either an unstable tear film or inadequate quantity of the tear film, both of which may lead to alterations in the ocular surface and result in dry eye symptoms. Hyaluronate is a naturally occurring molecule and major functional component that has an important role in joint lubrication. It is widely distributed throughout the body, including the skin, cartilage, and vitreous humor of the eye. Hyaluronate has been extensively researched due to its strong water retention and viscoelastic properties. This increases corneal wettability and reduces friction during blinking. Hyaluronate can also attach to the cells in the epithelium and form a protective coat, like a matrix structure, which entraps water to provide increased hydration and lubrication to the ocular surface. To enable dry eye patients to better experience the benefits of hyaluronate, Alcon has developed Systane Hydration Lubricant Eye Drops, an intelligent delivery system which combines HP guaiacol and hyaluronate. Upon installation of this intelligent delivery system, the solution becomes elastic and spreads easily over the surface of the cornea. Between blinks, the molecules of the combination of HP guaiacol and sodium hyaluronate adhere to the mucin layer of the tear film. Here they act as a bandage to provide increased hydration and maximize the residence time of the solution on the ocular surface compared to products containing HA alone. In vitro studies have shown that Systane Hydration Lubricant Eye Drops, an intelligent delivery system which combines hyaluronate with HP guaiacol, creates a moisture layer that attaches to the cells in the epithelium, entrapping water and promoting greater hydration, lubrication, and protection than hyaluronate alone. Hence, this allows corneal reepithelialization and restoration of the damaged surfaces of the ocular surface in patients with dry eye syndrome.
Thank you again to our sponsor, Sustain of Alcon, for giving us this opportunity to showcase this topic. We truly learned a lot about digital vision syndrome and better understand its effects and significance in our current situation. Since this topic is very timely, I am sure that we have quite a number of questions. And now let's welcome back to our screens our three speakers, Dr. Santiago, Dr. De La Cruz, and Dr. Duyonco. Before we start with the questions from the audience, I think Dr. Santiago has a question for Dr. De La Cruz.
Okay, yes. I'd like to be clarified, Dr. De La Cruz. I think you discussed prescribing a different type of glasses for presbyopes using the computer. No? And your example was if the patient is a +1 on one eye and +150 on the other eye with an ADS +2, what you actually do is prescribe half. You add the half of the reading ADS to the distance part of the glasses, so it becomes if it's an ADS +2, you add +1, so it becomes +2 and +250. But my question is, the ADS that I saw in your example was still an ADS +2. So to me, it's going to give you a higher reading, effective reading power of +4 and +450. Can I be clarified on that?
Okay. So since yeah, I agree. You really have to the intermediate power and will add up to the reading power. So in that sense, you will have a higher reading ADS. It's just describing a bifocal for hyperopics that you really sum up, or you get the total of the upper lens with your reading lens.
This is not going to cause discomfort in the patient. At least I don't have experience doing that. So in the patients that you've given that, they don't complain of discomfort. Parang to me kasi parang excessive ads siya.
Yeah, it has increased the reading upper.
Dr.
De La
So
Cruz?
far, yeah, so far, but actually all of these prescriptions are still subject to pain discomfort. So patient would complain like sort of headache while using it because of overplus, then you can adjust it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so to our viewers who are presbyopes or are not sure what glasses to wear, don't forget to consult your ophthalmologist or optometrist for the proper grade of your glasses. Now, we have a pretty good number of questions lined up. Let us see our first question from the audience, please. The first question. Okay, so the first question is, how do you diagnose a person with digital eye strain? Is dry eye syndrome categorized according to the severity of symptoms, mild, moderate, or severe? I think this question can be answered by either Dr. De La Cruz and Dr. De Yonco, or if Dr. Santiago also wants to add to their answers.
Can you flash that screen again? It
so
says how do you diagnose
how
a
do you
patient with
diagnose
digital eye strain?
Yes.
Okay. I've never had to classify it as mild, moderate, or severe, no. But what you see in the clinics is that you will see a lot of over minus preference, or a lot of additional with the rule astigmatism preference. And then when you do your cycloplegic refraction, you will see that it is a lot lower. No? So I know that those patients are probably on the digital screen a lot, and I call it maybe even ciliary muscle spasm and accommodative spasm. That's another lecture altogether. And what digital eye strain is, I define that because the Vision Council defines it as prolonged use of at least 2 hours on the computer, and then you experience symptoms.
Okay. So if you
have anything to add?
Okay, with
I agree with Dr. Santiago. The history of computer use associated with the visual symptoms and the extraocular symptoms, such as the headache and the muscle strain, that has to be elicited from the patient. And we also do not give it a severity grading. I think the severity grading is really more applied or practiced for dry eye syndrome in relation to computer use, but not for the syndrome or the digital eye strain syndrome itself.
Okay. Thank you, doctors. For the next question, please. Can you comment on the effect of intensity of screen light in producing digital eye strain? I think Dr. De La Cruz mentioned something about the screen light or the ergonomics or the settings when you use your
yeah,
computers.
with regards to screen light, it gives so much discomfort when the light coming from the windows or light from, for example, in your desk lamp is reflecting on your screen. Actually, as I said, if there is so much reflection coming from those screen, it actually decreases your visual capacity. So with that, the eye is trying to focus, so which in turn will lead to a more spastic activity in the ciliary muscle.
So do you suggest, sir, that they fix first the surrounding light and the light reflection before they adjust their screen light?
Yes, yes, that's very important. And another thing we commonly see among children, they try to use their smartphones with close
Mm,
light in their rooms, right? Or maybe
okay, yeah.
some of us are doing that. But that
Yeah.
is not good lighting system for environment when using
Okay.
computers. As I said, the surrounding light should be brighter than your screen light.
Screen. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a comment. There are some who like dimming the lights around them to increase the contrast between the screen and the surrounding, no? But it actually makes your eyes more tired. Now that I'm learning this from Dr. De La Cruz, it actually makes your eyes more tired
Yeah.
because you're seeing it brighter.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
It makes it brighter, but it makes your eyes more tired.
Yeah, it is brighter, but actually, after 1 or 2 hours working with that kind of setting, you will experience that pain, the description of astinopia. And
Oo.
also, the eye becomes very sensitive. So there, the photophobia will set in.
Then in children, there's another extreme, no? They purposely dim their gadgets to prolong battery life.
Yeah.
So that will
Bad
actually
habit.
also add to
No,
your strain, no?
that's bad.
Yeah, also
Thank
just wanted
you.
to add that we actually saw from call center agents that 86% of them experience light sensitivity. So as described by Dr. De La Cruz and explained by him, this is actually because of the high intensity of the screen as compared to the ambient light. So now I understand why 86% of them have light sensitivity.
Yeah, agree.
Thank you for that. Okay, do we have the next question? In measuring for the optical center, how far should the lenses be from the reference line? I think Dr. De La Cruz, this is also more apt for you,
Okay.
and Dr. Santiago.
Yeah, there is no specific distance between the reference line and your lens. As long as you can see it in a clearer view, that will be enough. What is important there is you have a good straight reference line.
You have anything to add, doctors?
Actually, it's the first time I saw. I mean, I used to go to the lens meter and mark
Yeah,
my digital center
yeah,
Mhm.
the hard way, trying to center my point and then look
yeah,
at the lens. The lens. This is the easier way pala of doing it. Just draw a
yeah.
line and make sure that your line is straight, and then mark your center. No? So that's
Actually,
a very good practical tip from Dr. De La Cruz.
if you don't have like well, you don't need to draw a line actually, but you can use a reference like edge of the door, something like that, or any straight
Okay.
line, a line from your picture frames or paintings. You can use that as a reference.
Yes, correct. Very good tip.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. For the next question, How about devices like the Oculus Rift or other virtual reality headsets? These are essentially screens that are mere inches in front of your eyes. Any studies relating them to eye strain? I think this can be for Dr.
I,
Dionco and I guess for everyone
I,
actually.
yeah. Dr. De Jong, would you like to answer?
Mm, I think because this is well, the virtual reality screens are relatively new, so I haven't really encountered any study on it. So maybe our other speakers have any answers.
Uh, yeah, in my only self-analysis, well, I think if you look at those virtual reality screen, I think they have computed the lenses that they place inside that unit. What do I mean by that? We all know, just like a telescope, they compute the power of the lenses, the distances of the lenses per millimeter. So I think that's why when you look at it, it seems like you are looking at a far at distance, right? So I don't think that it will give you an eye strain in the sense that it is very close to your eye.
What
Okay.
it does give me is dizziness.
Yeah, agree. Yeah.
I get dizzy
Motion
wearing the
sickness.
VR contraption.
Yeah.
Okay. For the next question, to Dr. Santiago, have you seen many children with eye strain caused by video games?
Oh, of course, I have a lot. And now, aside from the video games, we actually have online classes, and then you cannot just keep them on the online classes. They still have to continue their video games. So I can imagine that this pandemic will really increase the number of children with dry eye and children with digital eye strain and children with induced myopias and children with induced myopia with astigmatism. So parang we'll have to live with it. Let's just survive this first, and I think then we'll give them the rules after all these online classes are over.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
what you can do now is really the 20-20-20 rule, no? So
Okay.
every 20 minutes, you rest 20 seconds, look 20 feet away. And if your room is small, you follow Dr. De La Cruz's advice. You use a mirror, you bounce back the mirror, and make sure you get 20 feet, no?
Yes, agree. Actually, just to share to you my experience with my kids. Now, before the pandemic, during school days, they are not allowed to use gadgets or any digital device. They are only allowed Friday evening till the whole weekends. But the problem now, because they're on online as schooling in the morning, the rest of the afternoon will be video gaming and other computer stuff. So it's really problematic now.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think we still have a lot of questions. The next question, please. Okay, so to Dr. De Jongco, should eye screening be instituted as a routine? Should dry eye screening should be part of the routine screening practice for employees in video terminal intensive industries like BPOs and the like?
Okay, thank you, Kay. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good idea because when I surveyed these employees, when I did their dry eye screening, alarmingly, a lot of them are not aware that most of their symptoms are related to dry eye and that most of their symptoms are associated to their use of the computers. There's really a lack of awareness about this condition. And I think it's also the responsibility of the companies to disclose to the employees that they are at risk for these conditions because dry eye disease has been shown to reduce overall quality of life, and not only that, it also is an added expense for the employee to secure his or her dry eye medication. So I think in the long run, these compounded effects of prolonged use of digital screens should be assessed. I think the best time is when the employee starts working at the company, and this should be regularly done at least yearly.
Thank you for that. Anything to add, ma'am and sir?
Just to add up, no? Probably we should let everyone be informed the problem with dry eye. So the use of lubricant is really helpful actually among these employees. And also we have to let them know with regards to the frequency of the use of the eye drops, because as we all know that these lubricants with preservatives, you can only use it a maximum of 4 to 6 times a day. So if they are really, they really need more dosing of lubricants, we should suggest the non-preserved one.
Can we not make a pitch for assuming all these people on the computer screen, especially in the BPO industry, will get dry eye, and to treat them prophylactically and give them kumbaga sa vitamins sa computer screen may kasama ka lang dry eye drops.
Yeah.
Lubricants
Actually, that's a
beside
good
the
idea,
computer
ma'am.
screen, diba?
Yeah. Actually, if you look
Yeah,
at
it's a good idea.
if you will look at the photo of my son, there's a promotion. There's a sustain. If you will see the picture, no, there's a sustain on the side. And I told him that if he experienced some form of like grittiness or itchiness in the eye, he has to put that sustain.
But you would still advise patients or the lay to consult their ophthalmologist, because not all eye drops are equal. Not all dry eye drops are equal, and there are actually side effects to the preservatives, as Dr. Romeo said. So again, if you're not sure, it's better to always consult your ophthalmologist. Okay, for the next question. Sorry, ma'am.
I think Romy, Dr. De La Cruz also showed the different levels of dry eye drops, no, the level of viscosity and the level of dryness. No? So those are probably best left for the judgment of the ophthalmologist. No?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So for the next question, can you comment on the effect of humidity and temperature in BPO workers or in BPO workplaces as contributors to dry eyes? I think this is a very prevalent issue, because we even see in emergency clinics after a long shift, they would come in for tearing and eye pain. So I guess Dr. Bionco, would you like to answer that question first?
Okay. When you're screening these employees, you're actually exposed to their actual working conditions. So they actually work in it's like a college room setup. So they have lockers, and then they go to their workstation, and it's really in an air conditioned area. So that's already exposure to an air conditioned area for more than from 8 to 15 hours a day. And then when they go out, usually our weather here in the Philippines, it's hot, and sometimes it can get very, very dry, and most of them commute. So they're exposed again to another type of condition that predisposes to dryness. So really, BPO employees and other workers who work in offices that are air conditioned, even sales personnel in the malls, they are highly predisposed to dry eye, because the environment again plays a very critical role in dry eye.
Anything to add, doctors? So I think it is also a responsibility of the employer to also make sure that the work setting is also not detrimental to them. We see a lot of BPO workers who usually are stationed right in front of the aircon as well, so it even worsens their condition. So I think it's not just a matter of us being aware what to do, but also ensuring that workplaces are also equipped with the proper protocols to protect also the workers.
I have a question. Kisha, when you check the
Yes, ma'am.
conditions of the BPO workers, was their computer screen of sufficient size? Because I think some of them are working on a small computer, so they have to come closer like this. So it makes them enter into a vicious cycle of poor posture. The distance is wrong. Mga ganun ba?
Which reduces the productivity.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Actually, ma'am, for each BPO company, they have different different monitors installed. So it's true that some of them have large screens, while some of them have really small screens. And I think the variability of that working distance, they really don't follow it as well. So that's true, ma'am. Some of them have really small screens, and some of them have large screens. So it's very difficult. There's no protocol. I'm not sure if there's a protocol for it. I haven't really delved into that issue.
Parang dapat kung merong occupational hazard safety group they should
Yeah.
be looking into it, no?
Mm.
Parang merong minimum
Yes.
prescribed protocols, no?
Well, another common mistakes actually among these workers, tapos they are presbyopics. They use their regular reading glass and then they move closer just to see the screen.
Yeah.
That's what we do, and that's actually a no-no when looking at the screen with your reading glasses. Mhm. Because
And
they
Doc,
said in
just
reading
to add
glasses,
to that,
yeah,
and Doc, tama ka. And just to add to that, a lot of them are in denial that they already have presbyopia because when we did our study, we also had a group of 40 to 50 plus year olds who are not using glasses at all, and they're really complaining of presbyopia symptoms. So I think they should be well informed about the compounding effect of presbyopia on their visual display terminal related eye strain. So that's also one thing, ma'am, that and sir, that we can promote, I think.
yeah.
Thank you for that. For the next question, please. Um, for Dr. Romy, how do you use your formula for computer glasses on progressive lenses this time?
Okay, so with regards to progressive lenses, usually progressive lenses, before we all know that it has an advantage with regards to computer use because we have for distance, we have for intermediate, and we also have for near. However, we have to realize that the regular progressive lenses has a very small corridor. We call it corridor, the area where we have the power for intermediate. So because of that, there is some sort of difficulty for the patient. So the advantage of progressive computer lenses or office progressive lenses, because you only have the upper portion or the prescription for intermediate and the prescription for near, you have a wider area of your lens that you can use for computer. That's why now we try to separate it as much as possible. Well, we suggest it among those who works like long hours with computers. But if you, as I said, if you just work like 30 minutes in a day, like less than an hour just in a day, then regular progressive is probably just enough.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything to add, Dr. Ish?
Actually, the idea of intermediate progressives is very good because if you use your regular progressives, you will end up doing this while
Yes,
you're working on the computer.
yeah.
So
You
that's
will
going
have
to
to
give you
train
neck pains.
for poor posture.
Okay. Okay, for our next question, regarding proper posture, what is your take on advocating for less sitting and more standing while working on digital stations? I think this has become more popular recently. They allow employees or more people prefer to stand up while working on their computers. I think Doc Romy, this is also appropriate for you.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, not only in computers, when you're reading for long hours, standing will really relax your muscles, right? And you will have a better circulation. One of the authors said that oxygenation is better when you stand up while taking a break during computer works. So he actually add up that it oxygenates the eye properly when you move. So I think that's the advantage of it.
Okay. So can we go on to the next question? Okay. So are the dark mode and night shift options on iOS mobile devices effective? I think it also has something to do with light intensity as well.
I'm not sure it's effective. You need randomized clinical trials to tell you it's effective. Certainly, it depends on your comfort level. If it makes you feel better, go ahead and do it. If ako, I strain with the night mode, I don't like using it
Okay.
because I feel like I'm straining more to see when I need to read my phones at night. No, there's a lot of hype about it because of the hype with the blue blocking lenses. So I think it's a partner of that. No? So I don't really believe in it, but if it makes you feel better, you can go ahead and do it. Comfort level mo na yun. But at that time, when you have to use night mode, you probably should be going to sleep. No?
Yeah, but if we strictly talk about optics, for you to see better, you need to have a good lighting.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So,
correct.
as we all said that vision is impossible without light. No matter how healthy your eye is, if you close the light in your room, you won't be able to see anything.
I have a question for Dr. De La Cruz. Because you read about the engineering and the lighting stuff. I get questions from patients whether to use incandescent bulb, LED bulbs, the blue, the yellow, warm white, or the really white light.
Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't encounter any
Papers on it.
papers on it. But with experience, probably we can also tell, right, that some lights are really annoying to the eye.
Okay, because what I've read is at least what over the years. Now I don't know exactly the journal because I didn't go back to it lately. But what I've read is the yellow light is supposed to improve or enhance your contrast sensitivity. But I hate reading with yellow light. I like white light on white paper. So I don't know the answer to that actually. So because my experience tells me otherwise. No? But from a low vision standpoint, some of them will recommend using the yellow tinted light because of enhanced contrast sensitivity. I don't know. I don't think I see that, at least with my vision, so I'm not sure.
Well, actually, in the book, yellow light is really good, especially at nighttime, because it has a better stimulation with our scopopic vision. That is a night vision. That's why if we look at the streets, the street lamps, they are in yellow, right? So even before the headlights, the cars, they are in yellow because of that principle.
Thank you for that. Next question. Okay. Again, for Dr. De La Cruz, the centering technique you showed was for vertical centering line only. How about the horizontal? How do you center?
Okay. You can just tilt your frame, actually. Just tilt your
rotate it 90 degrees.
Yeah, rotate it 90 degrees and then do the same procedure.
Okay. Okay. Next question, please. For people who work on computer for very long periods of time, the 20-20-20 rule doesn't seem to be practical. Is there any other technique that can be done as an alternative with perhaps longer intervals? Doctors, any of you would want to discuss that?
I don't think it's impractical. It's just 20 seconds every 20 minutes.
Agree. I was
so,
actually. Yeah.
Diba? It's just 20 seconds every 20 minutes. So.
Yeah. And
I think you should use the app. You should use the app that Dr. De La Cruz is telling you about. It makes you reset it every 20 minutes.
It will remind you kasi nagbe-beep siya dun right?
Yeah.
Oh, I think 20 seconds, you won't even get noticed in your Zoom meeting if you took a 20-second break after 20 minutes of looking at the Zoom, no?
Agree.
Just make an effort.
Agree. Because BPO employees, for example, they can't take breaks in between their shifts. I mean, during their shifts, they'll be reprimanded for that. So I tell them 20 seconds is something that you can do and you won't get caught if you just look far for 20 seconds.
Well, actually, another technique which I didn't mention is you can just close your eyes after 20 minutes and then just close your eyes for 20 seconds. That's an enough break also.
Correct. Pero huli ka pag you close your eyes.
Huli yan, Doc. Yun ang concern nila. Parang, paano yun, Doc? Yeah, actually, Dr. Santiago actually brought it up. Some of our patients already told us na, nako, huli kami niyan, Doc.
Yeah.
Baka natutulog.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why in my what I said in the lecture is try to do something else. So you stand up, you make photocopies, you go to the bathroom, you take your, you can always think of something every 20 minutes.
Okay. I think we are going to have our last question. Um, would color images cause more digital eye strain than monochrome or black and white images?
Yes. Color images actually stimulates the eye more as compared to plain or black and white prints, especially in the computers because it's pixelated.
One more
Um,
question. Reverse polarity for ano yan yung mga ano na yan? What's that? What do you call that? Reader?
The white over black background,
Oo,
ma'am.
oo, and then black over white. Oo. Which
Yeah.
ones? Oo, I think I prefer the black. I want the reverse polarity. It's less straining on the eye compared to the usual that we're used to, white background and black print.
Kaya pala
Parang
black
it's
yung
less
likod mo,
straining.
ha?
Ha?
Kaya
Parang
pala
black screen.
Kaya pala black yung background mo.
Black screen and then ito
Para
tinakpan
very
ko lang
pop.
yung kalat ko. Black screen and then white print.
White. Okay. Anything to add, doctors?
I think in the previous PAO meetings, 'di ba? Parang we had LED kasi LED, even our projector screens are LED screens, no? It was very difficult for the eyes if the background was white. So you had to mute it with either gray or a darker color shade. Kasi it will make the LED shine brightest when you use white. Okay.
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to answer more questions live. So if you have any more questions, we will try to answer them in the comment section below. Again, thank you to Dr. Pauline Santiago, Dr. Romy De La Cruz, and Dr. Kisha Duyonco for your input and for that very interesting discussion. I think that you were able to address all of the questions extensively. We have now come to the end of our episode, and I think I speak for everyone when I say that it has been a very interesting, informative, and enlightening session. On behalf of the speakers, we'd also like to thank the TMC ITV organizing team for making us part of this Thursday learning habit. For the next episode of TMC ITV, join us again on October 8th, 5 p.m., this time with our cornea specialists who will be discussing the keratograph and the assessment of dry eye and its use in contact lens fitting. See our event posters for more details. And don't forget to click thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon below to get notified whenever we release new videos. We now have more than 500 subscribers and counting, and we encourage you to invite your patients, family, and friends to subscribe so that they can view our previous episodes as well as the infomercials created by the ophthalmology interns from the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health. They call it their Kaunting Kaalaman infomercials, which was shown earlier, the conjunctivitis video. Again, thank you to Alcon for sponsoring this event. Thank you, Dr. Santiago, Dr. Duyonco, and Dr. De La Cruz for sharing your time and your expertise. And of course, thank you to you, our viewers, for your continuous support. Again, I am Dr. K. Lokay Lokay saying good night, stay safe, and see you for our next episode of TMC ITV, Ophthalmic Instruction Without Borders.
We help make a difference every day. We are a company driven by new discoveries and possibilities. We've been helping people see better since 1945. We employ more than 20,000 associates in 74 countries, supplying medical professionals who treat patients in over 140 countries. We are Alcon. we are there. We make a difference, helping the world look, see, and feel better. And after our first 70 years, we are just getting started. We are Alcon.